little yarnivores, Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial, although somewhat different tutorial than my usual for you today. Now, this is actually going to be a crochet along, and this is the first of many videos that I hope to do on this. We shall see what happens. Now, I had done a video some months ago called the Kaleidoscope Granny Square Blanket, and it has received an enormous response, and I'm so delighted. And a lot of you have made sense of it, and some of you haven't. And I keep getting questions about what to do, and I want to be clear. You know, I want clarity. I want to explain. And I don't like having any loose ends. So with that in mind, we are going to do a step-by-step process throughout the whole blanket, as it were. And we're going to start from the very, very beginning, and we're going to keep going until, either, the blanket's done or you get it, and, really whatever. I want to be thorough, and I thought it would be a fun series to do. So without further ado, let's get into your materials. So obviously you're going to need a crochet hook, and this is worsted weight yarn, so I'm using a size I crochet hook, and I went crazy today getting Red Heart Super Saver yarn, and the last one that I did for the tutorial that I'd done, I bought, it was about 12 skeins. It was 6 different colors, and it was 2 skeins each, so I followed suit with this one. And actually, the only difference is that with the off-white here, the Aran that I had gotten, it was a jumbo, and it was actually just a little bit more yardage than if I bought 2 smaller skeins, so that worked out. So I bought, as you can see, yes, Aran. What's also great about using the Super Saver is if you run out, you can always get more without having to worry about dye lots. So, can't stress that enough, right? So I bought Aran, and I got Jade, and Dark Orchid, right over here, and I got Gold back here, and Carrot back here, and Charcoal. And you can use whatever colors you like. I wanted to be a little bit more colorful with this one than the last one. Last one was more earth tones and autumnal, but I wanted to be a little bit more vibrant. And aside from the basis of how to do the blanket, I don't have a color scheme in mind as far as the pattern, so we're going to see what happens, all right? So, like I said, about 12 skeins worth of yarn. You can do however many or however few colors you want, but if you want to follow along, hey, let's do it. Okay, so grab your coffee, your hook, your yarn. Of course, also you'll need a trusty pair of scissors, naturally. And let's get into it, shall we? All right, so to begin with, we're going to do our granny square. Now, if you already know how to do granny squares, by all means you can skip ahead, but I'm doing from the very beginning. Okay, so start with a slip knot, and then chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slip stitch into the first chain to create a ring. Flop that tail over. We have a ring. Alrighty. And then we are going to chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to do 2 double crochets within that center ring. We're going to work over this center tail as well while we do it. So going into this center here, do a double crochet, and this chaining up of 3 is going to count as our first double crochet. And see, I'm catching the yarn back here as I do my stitches. Makes it a little bit easier in the long run, let me tell you, because the fewer ends to sew in later, the easier. So we have 3 double crochets, then we chain 2, and then going into the center ring again, we do 3 double crochets, three, chain 2. So we've got 2 sides of our center square done, and then 3 more double crochets. Let me tell you, this project is pretty much all about the double crochets. Oi. Lots of chains, lots of double crochets. So we've got 3 sets of 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then in the center, 3 more double crochets. Okay. And then to finish, chain 2, and then slip stitch into this 3rd chain up here to finish round 1. And there we are. All right, so then for round 2, I'm going to keep with this same yarn. So I'm going to get into this corner over here. Makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to slip stitch into this next double crochet. So I'm going to slip stitch into there, slip stitch into the next one, and then slip stitch into this space here, and then chain up of 3. 1, 2, 3. 2 more double crochets. 1 and 2. All right. And then we're going to finish this corner when we come around, and you'll see what I mean. So what we're going to do now is we have to cross over this top section here. So to cross the bridge, we chain 1, and then we do 3 double crochets into this corner. So that's 1, 2, and 3, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets into this corner space here. That's 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1 to cross the bridge over here. 3 double crochets into that corner. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2. Another set of 3 into that same space. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1 to cross the bridge, as it were. 3 double crochets into that corner space. Chain 2. And then another set of 3 into that same corner. And 3. Okay, chain 1. And into this corner space, 3 double crochets. and then chain 2, and then slip stitch into this top chain, like so. And so we now have 2 rounds of our first square, or center square. And so what you're going to do now is going to cut your yarn and pull out your end. And we're going to start in our next round. Alrighty. Alright, so we have the first 2 rounds of our square. I sewed in my ends, like a diligent little spider. And so next color, I'm going to use the charcoal. And so what we're going to want to do is I'm going to start in the corner. And we pull up a loop, like so. And then we chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. And our tail, have that right down there. Going to do 2 more double crochets, catching the tail of our yarn back there. So that's 2, and then 3, technically speaking, because that chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. And then we chain 2 because we're in the corner, and then still crocheting over that tail, do 3 more double crochets. Like so. And then we chain 1. And, well, we're chaining 1 because we have to cross over the bridge here, if you recall. And then into this next chain 1 space, we're doing 3 double crochets. And then another chain 1, and then into the corner space, 2 sets of 3 double crochets. So we've got 1 set of 3, chain 2, and then another set of 3 double crochets. Okay, so we have this corner finished. Get some more yarn going on here. La-da-dum. All right. And then we chain 1, going into that next chain 1 space with a cluster of 3 double crochets. Come on. Chain 1, go into the corner, do 2 clusters of 3 double crochets separated by a chain 2 space. So that's 1 cluster of 3, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets. Okay, chain 1, because we're crossing the bridge. Into that space, we do 3 double crochets. Chain 1. So you can see, I mean, I know that the color is a bit dark, but I do hope that you can see this all right. You know, we will get into the fun colors soon enough. Don't you worry about that. So I chained 1, and then into this corner, 2 sets of 3. So that's 2 and 3 double crochets, chain 2. Yes, it's always 2 in the corners and then 1 along the sides when making granny squares. At least that is how I personally learned how to do it. And there are, of course, a million variations of granny squares out there. And everybody is right because that's how they learned, right? This is just how I learned, and it's stuck with me through the years. And if any of you have a different method, by all means, hey, more power to you, you know. I say that whatever works for you, do it, you know. And that's what makes this craft great, because we're all in it together, we're all individuals, and we all bring something to the table. So there's a lot of repetition in this pattern, as you can see already. So we have our 2 clusters here, separated by a chain 2, chain 1 space, 3 double crochets. We're almost done with this round. Chain 1 space, and then we need to connect this over. So into the top chain, which is right here, we do a slip stitch. If I can get into it, there we go. Yay! Yeah, be sure to get both loops on your hook there. All right, so that's our 3rd round done. And then again, going to slip stitch into that double crochet, like so. Slip stitch into the next one, like so. And then slip stitch into that chain 2 space, like so. All right, let me grab some more yarn. Okay. Whew, okay. So chaining up of 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, when I did my last round, with the white, what I did was I did only 1 set of 3, and then I connected it. Another way that you can do it actually is after you chain 3, is do the rest of your cluster here, like so, and then do your next cluster by chaining 2, and then 3 more double crochets. Like this. You know, either way does work, you know. See? So this corner's finished. So then when I'm over here, and I'm doing my cluster of 3 in this space here, it's just a matter of chaining 1 and connecting. So either way does work. Chaining 1, and then doing into this space a cluster of 3. Oops, come on. Getting all tangled up here. So that's 2, 3. Chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space. Okay, chain 1. We reached another corner, so that's 2 sets of 3 double crochets separated by a chain 2 space. Chain 2, and then 3 double crochets. Chain 1, because we finished our corner, so we're crossing over the bridge once again. So we've got 3 more doubles, chain 1, 3 double crochets into the chain 1 space. Chain 1 into that corner, do our 2 clusters of 3. Chain 2, and then another cluster into this corner. All right, chain 1, go into the next chain 1 space with a double crochet cluster of 3. Chain 1, another cluster, get some more yarn, chain 1, finish up our corner here, well, start and then finish. So it's 2 clusters of 3, chain 2, do our second cluster, chain 1, do another cluster into the chain 1 space, chain 1, and do our last cluster of this round. And of course, I get a knot. Naturally. Oh dear. Got it. Okay. Sorry about that. So that was 1 double. And then 2 doubles, and then 3 doubles, chain 1, and then, because we did our 2 clusters in the corner, like I said, chaining of 1, and then do a slip stitch into this top stitch right there, and slip. And there you are. So we've done 2 rounds of the white and 2 rounds of the gray. And you know what? I think we're going to leave it at that, because the fun stuff is really going to start now. Yes. All right, and you shall see. Be back in a flash. Alrighty, so we have our first 4 rounds done, and time to add some color. Finally. Love color, you know me. Alright, so we're going to start again in the corner by pulling up our yarn, and this time, yes, I'm using Carrot. So we start by pulling up our yarn, and then chaining up a 3. 1, 2, and 3. 2 more double crochets into that same space, crocheting over our tail as we go. And I do sew in my ends. Yeah, I do. There are ways of crocheting over your ends and working them in as you go, and there are videos for that. Me, personally, I like the old-fashioned way of just sewing them in. I figure it's my way of earning my Purple Heart. Alright, so we're doing our 2 clusters in the corner separated by a chain 2 space. Come on. Don't be difficult. I'm the one who's difficult around here. There we go. There we are. So we've got our 2 clusters in the corner, and our tail has been crocheted over. Now, granted, it's pretty secure, but I would not recommend cutting it off right there, our end. That's why I always sew them in further. So, that being said, let me grab some more yarn, and we will do our next couple of rows. So it's a chain 1 and a cluster into the next chain 1 space. Two and 3, chain 1, cluster into the next, chain 1, cluster into the next, chain 1, and then 2 clusters in the corner. That's 1 cluster, chain 2, and then for our second cluster, chain 1, another cluster going on here, like so, chain 1, another cluster of 3, chain 1, cluster of 3, oops, chain 1, 2 clusters in the corner here, chain 2, and another cluster because this is the corner. Right, chain 1, another cluster into the next chain 1 space, need some more yarn, story of my life. Okay, finish this cluster. Chain 1, do another cluster, okay, chain 1, another cluster, chain 1, in the corner it's 2 clusters, now, and of course, yes, I know this is the exact same thing that we've been doing for a number of rounds, but as this is a crochet along, you can follow with me. If you care to skip ahead, you can. And I will not take it personally because I know that everybody is on a different level. I respect that. But we all have to learn how to crawl before we can walk, let alone run. So for those of you that wish to follow along at this perhaps arduous pace, you're very welcome to the party. All right, so then we need just one more cluster right in here. All right, and that is going to finish up our round. Chain one, and then slip stitch into that top chain there, like so. All right, and then as we've done before, we're going to slip stitch into those next 2 double crochets and into that chain 2 space, slip stitch, and then we're going to start our next row. And before I keep going, I'm going to adjust my camera because my piece is getting a little big and unruly for me already. All right, so bear with me a moment. I'll be right back. All right, so I've adjusted my camera. Thank you for being patient. All right, so now going to start our next round by chaining up of 3. 1, 2, 3. 2 more double crochets to finish the cluster. Chain 2. And do this cluster. All right, so we've got our 2 clusters in the corner, and let's work our way along the edge. Always with a chain 1 and 3 double crochets into each chain space. And after this round, we will commence with the kaleidoscopic effects. I believe, let me see, it was 6 rounds? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yes. So this will be the last of our rounds for the initial square. Now, I'm more than sure that you can do a different number of rounds for your initial granny square. The only thing that I am sure of is that you need an even number of rows because you need the correct number of spaces along said row, because this is in essence one of our finished rows, right? Well, we need a center square, center hole, excuse me. See, here is the exact center. We've got a hole here, and we have a hole right here. And that comes about by having an even number of rows. So you could make your initial square smaller or bigger. But because on my initial tutorial I did 6 rounds, and on my initial blanket I did 6 rounds, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm being consistent. So I did my chain 2, 3 more double crochets into this corner space. So if you saw that initial video on the Kaleidoscope Granny and you wish to follow that video, go right ahead. But I do wish for this video to make sense in comparison to that video, so that's why I'm doing 6 rounds for this blanket as well. You know, the initial square, that is. Come on, why is this one being tricky? Besides, I like having you guys here with me through the whole process because sometimes we just need a little company. There we are. And it's nice having you guys with me because even though I can't hear what you're saying, whether you're grumbling or saying, yep, I hear what you're saying, or whatever, even though you're not able to speak to me right now, your comments speak volumes, and I love hearing from you guys. I really do. It brightens my day, and it gives me something to think about. And so we're at the corner, so we're doing another cluster of 3 into that same corner. I love hearing from you guys. There we are. So we're just going to work our way along the other side here by chaining 1, cluster of 3, chaining 1, cluster of 3, etc. And I must say that the overwhelming majority of you who have commented on my videos and on my channel and so forth, you've been so wonderful, very inspirational, and really motivational. Definitely keeps me going to keep making videos, and I love trying to answer your questions as best I can. Sometimes it's not easy because sometimes, I do a video and then months and months later I get a question and I'm like, I did that video a long time ago and I kind of forget what it was that I did, and then I actually look over my video footage and I realize, oh, this is where you were having a problem. Well, I don't have a steel trap for a memory, but I do the best I can. So we're in that corner, so we're doing another chaining of 2 and our second cluster. All right. Ultimately, I just really am trying my best. And I do understand the expression, you can make some people happy, but you can't make everybody happy. And I understand that. I respect that. My trouble is I want to make everybody happy. It's in my nature. And, well, it's one thing to be generous and caring and empathic. It's another thing to drive yourself crazy trying to make everybody happy but yourself. But that's just how I am. All right, and we're almost done with this row. Oh, that's so fabulous. Just one more cluster. And a chain 1 and a slip stitch, and then this row will be done. Well, round. It's not a row, it's a round. All right, so let me slip stitch into here, like so. And ta-da! All right, so we have a total of 6 rounds all completed, and I'm just going to sew in my ends again, and then we shall start in with the fun stuff. All right. Alrighty, so now we're going to get into the fun stuff. So, like I said, we're going to need to work into the center hole so that you know where you're at. See, here is our actual center. So we've got a hole, and then we have another hole, and then we have another hole. So this is our center hole. Now we're not going to be actually working into that center hole from the start. No, actually, we're going to go 3 stitches to the right. So we've got our first, second, and third. It's the third double crochet, or if we're going from right to left, it's the first. So it's this one right here. So insert your hook into the top. So here's our middle hole, and that's the top of the stitch there. Okay. Now I'm picking out the gold color. And so we're going to draw up a loop, like so. Okay, and then we chain one, and then into that same stitch, we're going to do a single crochet stitch. And that is going to lock our stitches. Okay. So then, into this center stitch, we're going to do our clusters. And because we're building out our side in this way, this is actually a corner. So we're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets into this center hole. So that's 1 and 2 and as soon as I get there, 3 and then we chain 2, 1, 2, and then into that same space we do 3 more double crochets. Need more yarn. It runs out so fast, don't you know? All right. And 3. All right, so that is the beginning of our corner. So then what you're going to need to do is chain 1, like so, and then we need to skip some stitches and go into the 3rd yet again. So this double crochet counts as our 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So into this 3rd stitch right here, all right, we are going to do a slip stitch right into that stitch with a slip stitch, like so. And so underneath here we have a bit of a space, and underneath here we have another space right there. We're going to need those in the future. I don't think for this round, but we will need them. All right, so then chain 2, 1, 2, okay, and then we go into the 3rd stitch again. Now this chain stitch counts as a stitch, so that's 1, 2, and 3. So it's the middle stitch here that we're going into. It's always in 3s. So into that middle stitch right there, we're going to do a single crochet and turn our work. And do not do a chain right now. So it's just the single crochet into that 3rd stitch there. And then we turn our work. Okay. And then into this space right here, we're going to do 2 more double crochets. Right in there. See, I told you that we would need those spaces. So we have a total of 3 double crochets, so to speak, right in here. And then we chain 1 because we're crossing the bridge just as before. And into this corner, we're going to treat it like any other corner by doing 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets, okay, chain 1, and then into this space here that we created, we are going to do 3 more double crochets right into here. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Then, grab some more yarn here. Okay. So we did those, and then we chain 1 again, and then into the 3rd stitch once more. So again, that chain stitch counts as a stitch. So that's 1, 2, and 3. So again, it's the middle of the double crochet stitches. So it's this one right here. We are going to do a slip stitch, like so. And then we pull it up, and we cut our yarn, and we shall get started in on the next color. All right. So that is the end of our little triangle there. And that's just 2 rows. And then the next 2 rows is going to be our next color, and that is going to be the first of our triangles. All right. All right, so I grabbed my next color of yarn, the purple, and like we did before, we're going to skip over to the 3rd stitch. So this center one here is where we left off. So it is 1, 2, because the chain stitch counts as a stitch, and then into the 3rd stitch right there. Okay. We're going to grab our yarn and pull up a loop, like so. Chain 1 and single crochet into that same stitch to anchor it. Okay, then into this space that we have here, we're going to do our cluster. And so we're going to make sure that this is fairly taut, this yellow one here, and do our 3 double crochets. And I'm working over that yellow yarn underneath these purple stitches here. All right. See? So we're bridging gaps here. And then we chain 1, and then go into the next, chain 1 space with a cluster of 3. Oh, excuse me. Chain 1, and then into the corner we do our typical 2 clusters. So it's 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. Chain 1, and then into this space we do another cluster, chain 1, and then again into this space down here in between we're going to do another cluster. Okay, there we go. Grab some more yarn. It's the nature of the beast. All right, and then we chain 1. Okay, and then as you can see where the yellow yarn is right there, that's where we left off. So that's 1, 2, being the chain space, third, okay, into that stitch right there. Okay, and we're going to slip stitch that stitch right there. Okay, and now because we have reached our corner here, because when we reach the corner right here, where it's this stitch right here into the last of the clusters of the side of our square, we can't go any further, and you will see why if you follow along, that right now what we're going to need to do actually is we're going to need to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, because this is going to be joined, this side over here is going to be joined to this side, which hasn't been made yet over on this side. So we're chaining up a 3, okay, and then we turn our work, and then into this space here, we do 2 more double crochets, like so. And then we continue along this side just as we have by chaining 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and then this is the corner, so we do 2 clusters. So we've got 1 cluster here, chain 2, and then our second cluster, like so, chain 1, go into the next, chain 1 space with another cluster, chain 1, go into the next, chain 1, and then we're almost done here. We need to go into this space here with another cluster, okay, now we have reached the end of the road. Now what we're going to do actually is we are going to chain 1, okay, which you could either chain 1 now or later, but I like to chain 1 and then I'm going to cut my yarn, okay. Now I know this is going to sound a little weird, but trust me on this one, okay. So I chained my stitch there, and of course we can always fix it later, and that's of course the beauty of crocheting. So I did that, and I'm going to cut my yarn like so, and actually, so that it doesn't come undone, I'm just going to pull it through, but do not pull it tight, otherwise you're going to be in for a headache later. So that actually is the end of one of the sides. Actually, it looks much better if I put it right side facing. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to do the next 3 sides in the same exact fashion. All right, we'll get to it. All right, so for the next of the sides, it's going to be really the exact same thing. So again, finding our center space, which is right here, we go over 3, go into that 3rd stitch, and we're going to pull up a loop, chain 1, and do a single crochet within that same stitch, like so. And then into the center here, we do 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2. 3 more double crochets into that same space. Like that. Chain 1. And then go into the 3rd stitch down here. So that's 1, 2, and 3 right into here. Like so. Okay. And that will be joined with a slip stitch, like so. And then we chain 2. And then into the 3rd stitch. That chain always counts as a stitch. So that's 1, 2, and 3. So that's the middle stitch there. Like so. Okay. So we're doing a single crochet because this is going to be the first double crochet. So doing that single crochet stitch, we turn our work and then do 2 more double crochets into this space here. Actually, I can make that a little bit tighter. There we go. Alright, so that's 2 double crochets, making a total of 3. Chain 1, 2 clusters into this corner space here. Chain 2. Do another cluster. Chain 1. And then into this space down here, we do another cluster. Like so. Chain 1. And then into the 3rd stitch, that's 1, 2, and 3 into the middle one here. We do a slip stitch, like so. Cut the yarn, pull out, and there we go. All right. And then back to the purple yarn. So doing that, going into the 3rd stitch, 1, 2, and 3, so it's the first one right there. See, 1, 2 is the chain, and then 3rd is right there. So we pull up our yarn, and we chain 1 and a single crochet into that same stitch to lock it in. Okay, and again, we pull the tail just a little bit, and we're going to be working over it as we do our 3 double crochets into this space that we created down here. So that's 3 double crochets right in there. Chain 1, 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, like so, and then into the corner we do 2 clusters separated by 2 chains. Okay. And let me just grab some more yarn. Okay. All right. Let me finish up this cluster here. Okay. And then we chain 1, go into the next chain 1 space with a cluster. Like so. Chain 1. And then going into this space down here, we do our last cluster of this row. Like so. And then we chain 1. And then again, we're skipping over 3, so that's 1, 2, and 3, going into the top of this double crochet right in here, like so. Did I get that? I'm going to. There we are. And we do a slip stitch into there, and then we chain up 3 because we have reached the end of the road. So it's 1, ooh, hello, 2, 3. Okay, we turn our work, and then into this space down here we do 2 more double crochets, and 2, chain 1, cluster into this chain space right here, chain 1, another cluster, chain 1, 2 clusters into the corner, all right, chain 2 because we're in the corner here, and then 3 more double crochets, chain 1, another cluster into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, another cluster into the next chain 1 space, like so, chain 1, and then down here we're doing our last cluster. All right, now we have a joining opportunity right here. Okay, so now the reason why I did this triangle first and then went to the left and did this triangle is because now I can show you how to join up your triangles. All right, so this is the one that I was just working on. Okay, so then you chain 1, and then you go across to your pre-existing triangle and into the top of that chain 3 that we did, we do a slip stitch. like so. Ta-da! And this edge is almost done. Not quite, almost. It'll be done once all 4 of our corners are done, and then we can do a round of clusters around the whole thing, because we need to connect this across here to the one underneath here. And personally, I find that it works much better if we do it in one fell swoop on the next round across the whole thing, and you'll see what I mean. Alrighty, so since our 2 triangles are now connected, I'm going to cut the yarn and pull my loop through like so, and we shall continue on with our next triangle. Alright, so we've done 2 of our sides there. So now we're going to do the next one going counterclockwise to the left, just as we did before. Repetition makes the process a lot easier. Alright, so again, going into the 3rd space from the center hole there. So that's right over here, like so, because it's the 3rd double crochet to the right of that center hole. We draw up a loop, give ourselves enough tail there. Alright, chain 1 and a single crochet into that same space. And then going across into the center chain space, we do 3 double crochets. It's 2 and 3, chain 2, 3 more double crochets, like so, chaining of 1, and then into the 3rd stitch, 1, 2, 3, so it's the double crochet right here. We do a slip stitch, and then we chain 2, because we need to do another row of the yellow. Let me just untangle my yarn here. Sorry. Bit of a mess. Just like me. Alright, so I chain 2. And then going into the 3rd stitch, so the chain space is 1, 2, 3, so it's into the middle. Like so. We do a single crochet. Then we turn the work. And into this bottom space here, we do 2 more double crochets. 1 and 2. Then we chain 1. Into this corner space, we do 2 clusters separated by 2 chains. Two chains. And then another cluster. Like so. Chain 1. And then underneath here, we're going to do our final cluster of 3 double crochets. It's 2 and 3. Okay, then we chain 1, and then going into the 3rd stitch. So this one obviously is the one that we left off at. So the chain is 1, 2, and 3. So into the middle there, we do a slip stitch, and then we cut our yarn. Oops, hello. And then pull out the loop. Get my yarn needle out of the way, sorry. All right. Okay. And then we go back to our purple yarn. Let me get my yellow out of the way here. Okay, back to the purple yarn. Now, of course, what you can do naturally is, in this instance, I could have done all of the yellows first and then do all of the purples at the same time, but I am going about it this way, just because. Because I said so. All right, so then into the third stitch. So not this one, because that's the one that we just did. So that's 1, 2, and 3. So it's the first of the 3 double crochets on this side here. We insert the hook, and we grab our purple yarn, and we pull up a loop, do a chain 1, and a single crochet into that same stitch to anchor it. Do I have enough of a tail? Yes, I do. Okay. All right, and then into this space down here, we're going to do our first cluster. And as always, make sure it's fairly taut. And we're going to crochet over it with 3 double crochets in the purple. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Tighten up my purple end there a bit. Okay. Chain 1, and work our way along with our clusters in the chain 1 spaces. Okay, and since we're in the corner, we chain 2 and do another cluster into that same space. All right. And then we work our way down the other side. Like so. And then into this space down here, we do the last cluster of this row. Like so. Chain 1. All right, and then we skip along 3. So that's where we left off. So 1, 2, and 3. So that's into the first of that cluster. We do a slip stitch. There we are. Chain up 3. 1, 2, and 3. Turn the work. And into this space down here, we do 2 more double crochets. Okay. Like so. Because again, we reached the end of the road. Chain 1. And work our way along back over this row with clusters. Alrighty. And then into the top here, we do 2 clusters separated by 2 chains. Chain 2. Okay. our second cluster here. Like so. Chain 1. Okay. And finish up our clusters on this row here. Okay. Do this one into here. And I need some more yarn, but it keeps getting tangled on me. The bane of my existence, but hey, I am a yarnivore. I have lots of fiber in my diet. Okay, there we go. All right, so let me finish up this cluster. Like so. Chain 1. And then finishing up down into this space here with 3 double crochets. Like so. And then chaining 1, because again we have to connect to this pre-existing triangle. So I chained 1 after I did my cluster here, and then going across to the pre-existing one into the third chain up, we're going to do a slip stitch right into here. And there we go. Voila! All right, I snip this. There we go. All right, coming along nicely, and I sewed in some ends, my yellow ends already, and so we just need to do one more of our triangles, and then we can do our final rounds for this section of the crochet along. All right. Okay, so we're on the 4th triangle of our initial square. So again, here is the center space and the third to the right. Going to use our yellow yarn once more. Alrighty. And so we pulled up a loop, chain 1, and do a single crochet into that same space. Once again. 3 double crochets into this center space. Chain 2, 3 double crochets. So that's 1, 2, and of course I got my yarn caught. Oh, yes, gotta love it. Okay, so that was 1, and 2, and 3, chain 2, 3 more double crochets into that same space. Come on. It's 2 and 3. All right, and then we chain 1, and then into the third chain, well, the third stitch, excuse me, 1, 2, and 3. We do our slip stitch, like so. Then we chain 2, and then go into the next third. So chain 1 space, double crochet, double crochet. So into that middle one, we do a single crochet, like so. We turn our work, and then into that space down there, we do 2 more double crochets. So that's 1 and 2, chain 1. Into that center space, we do two clusters separated by a chain 2 space, like so. Just give me some more yarn. All right, so that's chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets. Like so. Chain 1. And then into the space down here, we do 3 more double crochets. Okay. And then we chain 1. And then, so we got this one, so we go over 3. 1, the chain is 1, 2, 3. So into the center one here, we do a slip stitch. Okay. And then we find our scissors and we cut our yarn, pull out the loop. Okay. And then we grab our purple yarn once again, going over 3 stitches, so that's 1, 2, 3. So that's the first of that cluster there. And we grab our purple yarn and we pull up a loop, make sure we have enough tail, chain 1, go into that same stitch with a single crochet stitch, so we have a nice anchor. And then we go underneath here with our 3 double crochets. Okay, chain 1. Get some more yarn going on here. Okay. Finish up this cluster. Chain 1. 2 clusters in the corner. Of course, separated by a chain 2 space naturally. Alrighty, chain 1. Okay, go into the next space with another cluster. Chain 1, and then going underneath here with our final cluster of this row. Okay, chain 1, skip across 3 stitches, so this is the 1, 2, and 3. And yes, we've hit the end of the road, so doing our slip stitch, we chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3. We turn our work, 2 more double crochets into this space here. Okay, chain 1. Here we go. And we are so close to being done with this. I love it. I wasn't even sure that I was going to do this tutorial tonight, but I figured strike while the iron is hot and go for it. Okay, chain 2 because we're in the corner. Now, because right now it's 2:58 in the morning, and yes, I am a night owl and I do my best work at night, but it's late. Alright, so I chain 2. And I've got another cluster in that same corner space. Okay, chain 1. Oh, come on. There we are. Come on. You know you can do it. There we are. Okay. And chain 1. All right, and then this is my last right in here. Okay, chain 1, and then we're going to slip stitch to the pre-existing triangle here into the top chain, like so. And slip stitch. Yay! Does not take much to make me happy, let me tell you. Alright, so I slip stitched, now I cut my yarn. Alright. And we, if you've been following, we are now done with our initial square and the 4 corners built outwards. And now I'm going to show you how to fix this up. You know, sort of like a little mouth. But yes, we shall fix this up with the next 2 rounds. All right, be right back. All right, so before we continue on, we have to deal with the remaining joining that we began when we did our first triangle. So the easiest way is to undo that bit of yarn there and then redo the chain stitch there. And then, as before with all the others, we do a slip stitch into the top chain, like so. Okay. And just finish up our slip stitch, and then we can get on into the border. All right. And so we turn our work this way. Now, what I'm doing is going based on the configuration of the original square, where this orange is here. And this is the right side for the square, although it's the wrong side for this triangle, but I'm keeping with the configuration of the original square. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right. So what we're going to do is, with our border yarn, we're going to begin just like we have with the changing of colors in the original granny square by pulling up your yarn in the corner and then chaining up a 3. 1, 2, 3. And then do 2 more double crochets to finish the cluster, like so. And then a chaining of 2. And then 3 more double crochets into this cluster, well, into this corner, so that we have finished up our corner. And then we are going to continue to do our clusters across until we reach the center, and that is really the only point that we need to concern ourselves with for the rest of this video. But I'm going to go through it with you because that's exactly the point of this crochet along, is to be thorough, because I want you guys to really understand what we're doing here, because I care. And so we just continue right along. And we're almost there. Yes, indeed. All right, so we've reached the center point. Okay, so we're going to go underneath not just the purple, but underneath the orange as well. We're going to catch both together. So, going through, we're going to do our cluster. Okay, I'm actually going to do it this time. So we catch both layers, as you can see. And we finish up our cluster. And there you go. And that is going to be what we do across and around for the rest of this round. So, working our way across. Just as we always have with our clusters. Easy peasy by this point, right? Yeah, and I'm having a bit of deja vu Groundhog's Day at the moment. This is actually, truth be told, the third time that I'm filming this border sequence because, due to technological difficulties, I thought that I would do this segment using shorter clips because the app that I use, as much as I love it, it was saying that the file that I was trying to upload was not going to work for whatever reason, I don't know. So, we forge ahead and we keep trying, because I was determined to do this, as with most things. So we work our way across, and we are almost to that center point once more. Okay. Just make sure that the purple yarn is taut. Don't want it loosey-goosey on us. So catching both the orange and the purple together. And it really brings a nice finished look. Don't you think? Okay, so just going to keep doing our clusters around. Like so. Okay. I'm also really looking forward to this set being done because I cannot wait to start working with that jade colored yarn. Very much looking forward to that. I think that'll be fun. Okay, so we've got our two chains. Now, something I'm not sure if I set it in the two previous times that I was filming this or not, but I'll give it a go anyway. Now, when you're doing your colors, you could quite conceivably do a different color for every time that, I've changed my colors here. You could use a completely different color. You don't have to follow this formula. This is just what I'm doing, and if you care to follow along, hey, great. join the party. You can, of course, use as many colors as you want. However, what I would strongly suggest is that if you're going to use a lot of different colors of yarn, that at the very least, try to have them be all of the same weight and the same brand. Otherwise, you can run into trouble. And there we go. So we went through both like that. Because if you have different weights of yarn, you can end up with a warbled bacon-like mess. And of course, we don't want that, naturally. But, yeah, I mean, if you want to go really psychedelic and crazy, by all means, go for it. Could be an interesting Salvador Dali, Dr. Strange, Jackson Pollock, Kaleidoscope, hallucinogenic kind of yarn creation, which could be very interesting. And also would be great for stash busting. But keep in mind, you need that you need to have the weight of your yarn be consistent. That I cannot stress enough, because you're putting so much time and effort into this. You don't want it to be for naught, for nothing. You want a nice finished product, something that you can keep nice and snugly, and also not agonize over. It doesn't lay flat, which I have had that problem myself with very early attempts at projects where I didn't know what I was doing, but I learned from that. And that's what I always say, that as long as you learn from your quote-unquote mistakes, then they're not really mistakes. They're learning experiences. And that, my dears, that's how we grow. And I've done a lot of growing and a lot of learning over the years, let me tell you. All right, so we are almost done with this round, and then we're going to need to do just one more. So we reached the center over here. No problem, we got that licked, don't we? So just scoot our way across underneath both layers, like so. And then we are going to finish up this round and then do one more. And then we will be done with this part of the crochet along, and I'll explain why we need to do one more. Absolutely essential. All right. Oops, hello. All right, and do our chain, and then we slip stitch into the top chain up here, like so. Slip stitch. Yay. And then, of course, we need to work our way into the corner, so we need to slip stitch into that double crochet, slip stitch into the next one, and then slip stitch into the corner space. And then we will begin our final round. Alright, so before we continue on, I'm going to explain why we desperately need to do one more round at the very least. Because now when we were doing our initial square, we needed a center hole, remember? Well, we need another one here. We don't have one. It's blocked. See, center hole going all the way up, and right now it's blocked up. So, that being said, we need to do another round so that this is filled, and this is filled, and then this space is empty, because we need that center hole. So that is why we need to do one more round, or 2 more rounds. Totally up to you, but I would suggest follow along so that there's no confusion. So we're going to start by doing our chaining up of 3. 2 more double crochets to finish the cluster, chain 2, 3 more double crochets to finish up the corner, yep, chain 1, and then we're just going to work our way across as we have been. And I've probably said this before, and I'll say it again, I do so love grannies because it's one of those stitch patterns where you really can just get lost in the meditative flow. And just as much as this is a kaleidoscope look, it's also a bit of a mandala as well, which of course are very much in the way of meditation. And so when you're doing this stitch, especially when you're doing the borders all the way around, you can very much get into a mindful, meditative Zen zone, if you will, which is very much what I need more often than not. You know, some relaxation where I can just sort of get away from the worries of the day. And that is, by and large, why I love doing this so much. I have, admittedly, a lot of nervous energy, and I always feel like I have to be doing something. Well, this is a way for me to be doing something, yet I don't have to freak out over it. You know, it's sort of constructive meditation. The idea of just sitting quietly with my eyes closed, thinking about glowing light. You know, for those that are capable of doing it and quieting their minds, more power to them. I wish that I could. But I don't think it's in my genetic makeup. Often I feel like I need to be doing something. And this is a way for me to be doing something. But also, I'm creating something lovely, something practical, something decorative. I'm expressing myself through color and texture. It's so much fun. Also, compared to some other hobbies and so forth, this is relatively inexpensive when you think about it. You know, go to the movies on a Friday night, and if you go with somebody else, yeah, you can quite easily spend, you know, a good 40, 50 some odd dollars. And if you go crazy at the snack bar, oh, heaven help you. You know, or if the movie is in 3D, IMAX, super duper, you know, it's like, yeah, need a second mortgage just to see a movie that only lasts 2 hours. And then, of course, you have to tell the person behind you to please get off their cell phone. You know, so, I mean, this suits me much better, you know. So, as I was saying before, we need that center space. Well, see? We've got one. So, when we're starting our next set of triangles, we can do so. Very important. It's all about the steps. So, yeah, this is something, this craft, that has just brought me so much delight and joy over the years, and that is why I do it to, well, excess. I can admit to that. But it's a good thing. You know, as long as I can curb my appetite for buying new yarn, no harm, no foul. Lately I've gone a little bit crazy buying Karen Cakes yarn because I do so love the colorways. I'm trying to think of new patterns to use with them, but I have to be careful. That little imp saying, "Buy me, buy me," keeps screaming at me, and I'm sure that little imp has visited quite a few of you as well. Alright, so we are almost done. Oh, can you feel it? I can feel it. Oh, I'm all tangled. There. Okay, fixed that. So, what I figure I'm going to do is, well, I mean, hopefully those of you that have been watching do like and appreciate the lengths that I'm willing to go for you guys. You know, if you guys like what you see and you would like me to continue on with this crochet along, and I see no reason why not, you know, if you want me to continue on, I'll do the next set of triangles along the sides and so forth, and we will continue to have our blankets grow together. And of course, I would love, absolutely love, to see what you are all up to. And for those of you that don't know, I am on Facebook, and I am on Instagram, and on both sites, I go by the handle of Fiber Spider, just like I do here. On Facebook, it is a community page, and I'm more than happy to see what you guys are up to. And on Instagram, I've been on there roughly about the same time that I've been doing this channel, and it's a lot of fun posting things. One thing that I have not gotten into is posting selfies or my dinner. I try to keep it in the artistic line if I can. All right. And I'm not being dismissive of those that do take selfies or post pictures of their dinner, because sometimes those meals look darn scrumptious. But mostly I just have leftovers. All right, so we are almost done. So yeah, as I was saying before, if you want me to keep on doing this series, by all means, keep those comments and questions coming. I love hearing from you guys. I really do. It brightens my day and gives me something to look forward to, because this is my passion. This is what I do. I love sharing with you guys because, as I've said countless times, that knowledge is power, but sharing is caring. And I care. I care enough to share with you, because knowledge kept to itself, well, it's not worth having. There we go. And also, of course, if you guys have any suggestions for future videos, I'm all ears, and I may or may not actually fulfill your request, but I may at a later point, but I'm always open to suggestions, within a degree of reason, of course. Same thing goes with the audiobooks that I do, my narrations. I'm almost done reading through Alice in Wonderland. Upon a suggestion, I started reading through Pride and Prejudice. When I'm done with Wonderland, I don't know, I might do The Wind in the Willows. I might do something else that somebody suggests. Let me know. And we are just about done. Oh, I'm so excited. All right. So listen, we have finished our first major segment of our Kaleidoscope Granny. Absolutely love it. So, here we are. We've come a long way together. I just love it. Reminds me of a pansy flower. Absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to sew in my ends, and, you know, hopefully you guys will see this and be like, I think I'm going to give it a try. So, until next time, I want you guys to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, and above all, stay stitching. I love you guys to death, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.